Ever wondered how JSP scripting elements work? Today we're diving into the world of JavaServer Pages and understanding how you can use these elements to create dynamic web content. JavaServer Pages, or JSP, is a technology used to develop web pages that support dynamic content. This dynamic content is created using JSP scripting elements, which allow developers to embed Java code within a JSP page. This embedded code can generate dynamic content, control flow, and interact with Java-based backend systems, making JSP a powerful tool for web development. There are three primary types of JSP scripting elements: declarations, scriptlets, and expressions. Each of these elements offers different levels of control over the behavior of a JSP page, enabling developers to accomplish a range of tasks, from declaring variables to executing complex logic. Declarations are used to define variables and methods that can be used throughout the JSP page. These variables and methods are declared at the class level, meaning they form part of the servlet generated by the JSP container. Scriptlets, on the other hand, contain Java code that is executed within the context of the JSP page. This code runs when the JSP page is processed, enabling dynamic content generation, control structures, and interactions with backend logic. Finally, expressions are used to insert Java expressions into the output. These expressions are evaluated and converted to a string, with the result directly included in the JSP page's output. In the upcoming segments, we'll be delving into each of these scripting elements in more detail, discussing their scope, use cases, and how to use them effectively. We'll also touch on some best practices to keep in mind when working with JSP scripting elements, to ensure your code remains clean, maintainable, and scalable. Understanding JSP scripting elements is crucial for any web developer looking to leverage the power of JavaServer Pages. So, get ready to dive deep into the world of JSP scripting elements and discover how they can enhance your web development journey. Let's begin by exploring the first type of scripting element: declarations. Declarations in JSP allow developers to define variables and methods that can be used across the JSP page. These elements provide a way to declare and initialize variables and methods, giving them a wider scope. Declarations in JSP are done at the class level, meaning they are part of the servlet generated by the JSP container. Think of declarations as the building blocks for your JSP page. They form the foundation, setting up the variables and methods that you'll use throughout your code. And because they're declared at the class level, these variables and methods are shared across multiple requests. They can persist throughout the lifecycle of the servlet, providing a consistent environment for your JSP page to operate in. Let's look at an example. Suppose you have a counter that you want to increment each time the page is visited. You could declare an integer variable named count and initialize it to 0. You could also declare a method named getGreeting that returns a string saying, "Hello world." You would place these declarations within %% tags, like so: %int count =0, public string getGreeting, %. The variable count and the method getGreeting are now available to be used anywhere within your JSP page. Declarations are ideal for shared data, utility methods, or any code that should persist across requests. They provide a way to store information that needs to be accessed or modified by various parts of your JSP page. However, it's important to remember that because declarations are shared across requests, you need to ensure proper synchronization when using them. This will prevent any unexpected behavior or errors due to concurrent access. Now that we know about declarations, let's move on to the next scripting element: scriptlets. Scriptlets in JSP contain Java code that is executed within the context of the JSP page. This code is run each time the JSP page is processed, offering a dynamic approach to content generation. Scriptlets also provide a way to manage control structures and to interact with the backend logic. Scriptlets operate at the method level. To put it simply, they run within the context of the service method in the servlet that the JSP container generates. This is what makes them so useful for adding dynamic behavior to a JSP page. To give you a clearer picture, let's look at an example. Suppose you're keeping track of the number of times a page has been visited. You could use a scriptlet like this: %count++, outprintln, page visited plus count plus times, %. In this example, the scriptlet is increasing the count variable and then printing the number of page visits. This is all happening within the service method, making the information dynamically available each time the page is loaded. But scriptlets are not just for counting page visits. They can be used in a variety of ways to manage the flow of logic and interact with backend systems. For instance, they can be used to control the generation of content based on certain conditions or to interact with request parameters. However, while scriptlets offer a great deal of flexibility, it's important to use them judiciously. Overuse of scriptlets can lead to cluttered and hard-to-maintain JSP pages. It's always a good practice to separate business logic from presentation logic as much as possible. In summary, scriptlets are a powerful tool in your JSP toolkit. They allow you to embed Java code that is executed each time the JSP page is processed, bringing dynamic behavior to your JSP pages. Whether you're managing control structures, interacting with backend systems, or simply counting page visits, scriptlets offer a flexible and dynamic approach to JSP development. Having understood scriptlets, we're now ready to explore the last scripting element: expressions. Expressions in JSP are used to insert Java expressions directly into the page's output. But what does that mean exactly? Well, in essence, it's like injecting bits of Java right into the heart of your web page, allowing for dynamic content that can change based on various factors. Expressions are evaluated and converted to a string, and the result is then directly included in the JSP page's output. Think of them as the chameleons of the JSP world, seamlessly blending into the HTML while bringing the power of Java to your pages. Now, in terms of where these expressions live and breathe, they are evaluated in the context of the service method. This is similar to scriptlets, which we discussed in the previous segment. They are used for embedding these Java expressions directly into the page content. So, what are some use cases for expressions? Picture this. You want to display the current date on your web page. Instead of hard-coding a static date that you'll have to manually update every day, you can use a JSP expression. Here's a quick example. %=new Java, util date, %. This simple line of code will output the current date every time the page is loaded. Pretty neat, right? But it's not just dates. You can use expressions to insert all sorts of dynamic data into your pages, like user information, results from Java methods, and more. Now, while expressions can be powerful tools, they can also clutter your page if overused. It's best to keep them simple and use them for small expressions or data insertion. Think of them as a spice in your coding kitchen. A little can go a long way in adding flavor, but too much can overpower the dish. In the end, expressions provide a way to make your web pages more dynamic and interactive, allowing you to respond to the needs of your users in real time. Now that we've covered all three scripting elements, let's talk about some best practices. While JSP scripting elements offer flexibility, it's important to use them wisely to maintain clean and scalable JSP applications. Now let's talk about some best practices for using JSP scripting elements. Implementing these principles will help you avoid common pitfalls and ensure your code remains maintainable and efficient. First up, let's talk about scriptlets. While they offer a great deal of flexibility, scriptlets can make JSP pages hard to read and maintain if they are overused. They can quickly turn your neat JSP page into a tangled web of Java code and HTML. The best practice here is to minimize the use of scriptlets and aim to separate your business logic from your presentation logic. Complex code should be moved to Java beans, servlets, or other backend components. This keeps your JSP page clean and focused on its primary role, presentation. Next, we have expressions. These are very straightforward and can be quite handy for embedding dynamic data directly into your page. However, just like scriptlets, they can clutter up your page if overused. The best practice is to keep expressions simple and use them sparingly, only for small expressions or when you need to insert data into the page. Finally, we have declarations. These can be a bit tricky because while they allow you to declare variables and methods that persist across requests, they can introduce persistent state which can lead to thread safety issues. So, use declarations cautiously and ensure proper synchronization when using shared variables. It's a good idea to limit their use to cases where shared data or utility methods are necessary. Remember, the goal here is to create JSP applications that are easy to understand, maintain, and extend. And while JSP scripting elements provide a lot of flexibility, using them wisely and following these best practices will help you achieve that goal. And that's a wrap on JSP scripting elements. Remember, the key to mastering these elements is practice and thoughtful implementation. Happy coding!